Hello everyone and welcome to Storyboard, the storytelling talk show. My name is Cameron S. Davis. Each week on this show I bring on an artist from the artistic community to talk about themselves, their artistic projects, and what stories are speaking to them lately. In the second part of the show we play the game of Storyboard, a storytelling game for 2 players that was created for the show. By the end of it we will have created a story together and we hope you enjoy watching us do so. So without further ado, welcome to Storyboard. And welcome back. My guest today is Jason Marnocha, hailing from the town of Zionsville in Indiana. Jason has been a voiceover fanatic for most of his life. I accidentally switched screens. He earned his Bachelor of Arts degree in radio from Columbia Col-lege Chicago, and as much as he adores that city, it just isn't the hub for the kind of voiceover work he wanted to do, namely animation. His first big breakout role was Megatron in the Transformers Prime Wars Trilogy, but such a long series of flights to California and back couldn't go on forever. After finally moving to Los Angeles, he's found how much he especially enjoys dubbing work in anime. Some of his most notable dubbing roles include Coach Nanbu in Megalobox, the Demon King in Seven Deadly Sins, Kei-cho Nijimura in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Hellvis and Hells, Monster King Orochi in One Cat Noir, Gus Goldman in Carole Tuesday, and Bishop Ladja in Dragon Quest Your Story. He has worked in video games as well, his roles including Travant in Fire Emblem Heroes, the narrator Aurelius in the VR series The Wizards, and as Omen in Valorant. He is especially delighted to be making his return to the role of Megatron in Transformers War for Cybertron animated series coming soon to Netflix. Jason is represented by A3 Artists Agency. So welcome to the show, Jason. You are live.
Hey, delighted to be here. Thank you.
So my standard question for these weird bullshit times we live in has always been, how are you doing with gestures vaguely?
The gestures vaguely definitely puts the right emphasis on it.
Oh, yes. It's just all of this. Yeah.
All of these things, the happening going on right now.
Exactly.
That are happening. Honestly, I started off doing pretty poorly.
Yeah.
Just mentally and all that, because this was all so sudden and everything. This, sudden plague was something that I had not really considered. So that was bizarre for me. But I did, once I figured out a routine again and a rhythm in order to sort of deal with such a virus going around and all that. And
yeah.
Kind of helped me mellow out a little bit, but I do, even me, someone who loves being inside, I miss being outside.
Yeah, God, I know that feeling. I've become such a homebody. Like my company was working from home before this, but like what allowed me, it was fine because I could, always go out and hang out with friends and things. And now it's just like,
It's really bizarre, yeah. But I'm glad I have been able to work from home just in my booth here. I've been able to do some dubbing things and some other video game work and such from home, so that's been great. But I miss people. I live with my fiance and our roommate, but I do miss going out to places and having even small modicums of adventure.
Yeah,
I have started to miss really badly.
Yes, when this plague has ruined grocery store trips for me too. It's very annoying. I used to love that.
Yeah.
Now I have to wear a mask and dodge around people.
Masks, but not like this. Not when I have to wear them.
Yeah, exactly. I'll never like say I hate it so much I'll not wear it like many dumb people.
Oh no, gosh no. I would be considerate of others.
Yeah, because it's meant to protect other people from you, not protect yourself, you selfish bastards. But yeah, so I have been noticing via the video game internet that lots of video games, or at least like a bunch of people, are still able to work from home and do all that, which is great. I've seen a bunch of voice actors, like I follow a few from like the Critical Role people and stuff, have been talking about still being able to do jobs, which is really great. It's a bonus for being a voice actor rather than like a live performer.
Oh yeah, sure.
Because I know lots of theaters and lots of actors in the city who are really struggling right now because they can't do their job, and a lot of these theaters are really struggling and probably won't reopen. So that's fun information.
It's real sad. It's a real shame.
But about voice acting, I think I've probably asked you this before since we know each other, but it's a pretty standard, how did you get started as a voice actor question?
Oh gosh. Well, I guess I got started just because, as a lot of voice actors will probably say, because it just seems to be the pattern, is that when I was younger, I had a little micro cassette recorder, and I would go around recording other things or recording things and like intersplicing my voice as one of the other characters into it with it before I even knew that was really a job or anything.
Yeah.
Eventually dubbing. I was always just fascinated with, like how did these different characters have this voice, and how do they do that and stuff. So I would play around with like my own vocal stuff, and then performance stuff throughout high school into college and whatnot. And I initially went to college for, well, let's see, I changed my major a few times. Initially I went for screenwriting, and then
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. And then I switched to theater. Or wait, did I switch to film? No, screenwriting was kind of the film thing too. So so then I switched to theater because I was I had been doing YouTube voiceover
stuff,
whatever, just fooling around with the vocal things and stuff. And then when I was in the theater department, I was like, this is great, I enjoy acting, but not like this. I want to be acting when no one can see me.
Yeah.
So that's
I got a job for you.
Exactly. I was like, well, voiceover is actually pretty viable, and they have a radio department here at Columbia. Okay, maybe I'll take a crack at that. So I guess that's what, and especially like, getting the actual full experience of like being in a booth and having the teacher sort of direct you and whatnot. Yeah. I think that ultimately did give me a better feel for it, and made me realize that this is the most fun I've ever had, because you can play like anything and it doesn't matter.
You don't have to look the part.
Yeah, which is a big help, especially because I hobble around on a cane. So
yeah, I mean, I could typecast you as a few things, but that would be where your place would be if you were doing that. Now you can be, Hellvis.
Exactly.
Did they not have a actual voice acting major at college?
I believe voiceover was a minor. I don't think you could actually have it as a major though, because when I was graduating, they did tell me like, oh, if you stay for another semester, you can minor in voiceover because you've taken all the classes.
And you went, no.
No, thank you. I'm out.
I'm done.
I'll take a radio degree and be on my way.
Yeah, and you were already like doing some gigs and things, and by that point, Speaking of, how'd you start actually finding auditions and whatnot? Because I am mostly curious in how does the industry work, Jason? You tell me from your point of view.
Well, it's weird because it's like constantly shifting. Like I couldn't tell you if because it was initially voice acting. What was it? VAA? I don't remember what the actual. I don't even remember what the website was anymore. But now it's like I think a lot of people use Casting Call Club, which is something that when people are making independent projects, they can look for talent there and hold auditions there. So it was that kind of setup where it was some websites where you would collaborate with people and things like that. And I guess where it all sort of happened was just from my YouTube work that I got, which was mostly just me goofing about. So it was kind of nice that a lot of like Bat in the Sun found me on there to voice in their Superpower Beatdown stuff and things like that. And then that led to auditioning for Transformers, and then that led up from there.
The rest is history.
And it's really, and so much of it is like just who you know and who you network with, like as with so many things.
All industries, yes.
All industries ever.
Really who you know, because that's how I'm. It's the only way I do anything anymore. Yeah. It's all I'm asking one person while asking one person if they know anybody who does this while telling them, hey, I have a friend who does the animation sort of things you're looking for. I can point them in your direction. And it's just passing people's names around.
Yeah.
But that's so I've looked into some of that. I'm not extremely good at consistently doing voices, as I've noticed in playing Dungeons and Dragons. I do all the like super hardcore role-playing stuff, so I really do go all in as far as voices and stuff, but I have a really hard time consistently keeping up a voice after a while. But I've looked into it because I was curious, and I think it's much harder. It was difficult for me to find any sort of initial like here's some auditions for stuff. You have to sign up for some subscription service or whatever nowadays.
Yeah, there's a lot of pay to play stuff out there. There's like Voice 123 and things like that, and those tend to be fairly scammy. Like those are not super great in my experience. But I also know people who have like Voice 123 accounts, and like they use that as their chief source of voiceover income. So yeah, so it's just a trade-off. It's kind of like the Blue Yeti. Really works really well for some people, and then for me, I can't use it at all because it doesn't like my voice. So
oh really? That's interesting.
Yeah,
that's like my go-to recommending microphones to people, Mike, because it works generally pretty well for relatively casual use.
Sure, yeah.
Like so many people I don't know don't have like XLR cables lying around their house like I do.
No, I know that feel well. I honestly just replaced the XLR cable on mine. It's now a black and red woven thing.
Those are so much better.
Yeah.
I love those cables. Yeah, we're going to audiophile cable talk on this show today. I've got the really long one plugged into this, and I actually had to buy a Blue Icicle so that I can run it through the laptop, which I'm using to do this.
I recommend the Blue Icicle a lot. That's a good USB connection.
It's amazing. It works perfectly. And like genuinely just astounding how good it is and how cheap it was. And Guitar Center got it to me in a day during the pandemic, so that was pretty awesome.
Oh my god.
I should probably open my questions.
Nonsense. We're talking about cables.
so yeah, I mean I could talk about cables for a while.
Yeah, cable talk.
Highly recommend Monoprice. They're having a sale on Pro Audio cables right now if anybody is looking for that. They're not paying me. I just really like them. So you sort of mentioned it a bit that you wanted to play like any character. Would you say that's like what you like most about voice acting, or is there a specific something else beyond what you already said?
The variety of at least the potential for variety of it. Because one does find themselves, occasionally not really typecast, but definitely in your vocal range, because that even if you do, like really silly, like, oh gosh, what are we doing? Oh no, like a really higher pitched thing, which I have auditioned for a few times. And outside of like earlier we mentioned Bishop Ladja in the Dragon Quest. Outside of him, I don't usually voice higher pitched characters. Usually I voice the lower, the lower scary things and whatnot. So
anything that does an evil laugh is also right up your alley.
Oh yes, yeah. I play a lot of villains, which I think are more fun than the heroes anyway. So that's fine by me. Like honestly, I'm pretty happy to be typecast because I get to play a lot of bad guys. Yeah, it's not not exactly
voice typecast. Yeah,
voice typecast. Nice. There you go. Yeah, because type can be so like visually or whatever, but it's like no, it's really just vocally. So yeah, I play a lot of villains, a lot of older mentor characters. Never really someone my own age. Probably the only exception to that is because I'm 31 now, and Kei-cho Nijimura from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is meant to be 18. So that's technically the youngest I've ever played, and I essentially use my own voice for that because he's a big military dude with shoulders this wide, and he's got the big barrel chest and things like that. So I suppose if he sounded like an actual 18-year-old, that would be strange.
Yes.
Yeah. But so usually I play characters much older than myself, or eldritch, scary monster villains, or big robots.
Giant robots, lots of giant robots. Or one specifically.
One specific giant robot amongst a sea of others.
So many. When's that? Do we know when that's coming out? The new
I do not
Transformers?
know. I have no information about that. It's interesting. I've actually been getting a lot of questions about that lately on Twitter and stuff, and I'm like, man, I just did the voice stuff.
It's not up to me.
Tell me nothing. No, I'm not sure. I believe initially it had been set to come out sometime in the near future-ish, next couple of months, but I'm not sure if that's stayed or not. Like, I don't know what, with all this pandemic going around, I don't know what that might have done to slow production. So
yeah, a lot of things seem to be slowed down slightly because of all this madness, and that's understandable.
Sure.
But yeah, hold on, yeah.
I mean, hopefully, I want to see it very badly, so I hope that it comes out soon. Certainly. So I'm with anybody who keeps asking about it. Like, I want to know too. I want to watch.
Good question. I have. I'm actually curious because as an actor myself, obviously I have
as well.
I obviously have lots of friends who I went to like college with who moved out to California, and you're obviously one of those friends. And my question is like both as far as work stuff goes and just life. How's California?
It's definitely a big shift, because I like the beach and dress like a retired pirate. So it's kind of, yeah.
Aren't you a retired pirate? Didn't you do Ren Fair stuff?
Yeah, it's true. Oh my gosh, I just broke my brain. You're right. I am a retired pirate. But yeah, I mostly live in Hawaiian shirts and sandals anymore, just because for comfort's sake. And yeah, it's been interesting because they don't really have seasons here. Not as such. They have cool weather, and then they have really hot weather.
Yeah.
And that tends to be it.
Is it dry heat?
It's a dry heat, so there's not a lot of humidity, which is nice.
That is nice.
It's not like Florida or something.
Or Wisconsin. Yeah.
Or Wisconsin, yeah. But so it's been interesting to, and I still have not really been to a beach here. Much as I love going to the beach, I've never really been to any of the beaches here. I've been to Venice Beach a couple of times just because I was recording nearby, and I was like, oh, a beach. I was just go and have a stroll or whatever. But I've never really had a proper beach day since moving here, which is very strange for me.
I think that's
Oh,
I was going to make a joke. I think that's the Futurama joke with Zoidberg saying, "It's funny, you live in the universe and you never do these sorts of things until someone comes to visit."
Yep, exactly. Yep.
I can't do a Zoidberg voice, but that's all right.
Yeah, well, the gist was there.
Yeah,
it was perfect.
I remember you explaining it was like you relax your cheeks and.
Oh yes, you relax your cheeks and go and things like that. Have your tongue float in the middle of your face.
I think you also have to be able to do a pretty good like Jewish accent. Like, I am Jewish and can't do that accent. Unfortunately,
like how it sort of goes up on lines like, oh.
Yes, yeah. You can vote for Schnoidel. If you want, there should be a recession. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There should be a recession. Yeah. I love that so much. But yeah, it's work-wise, it's been good out here though, because thankfully I was able to come out here with enough people that I knew, and things like that I was able to get in with some studios and things like that, like Bang Zoom and such, and
right.
And get an agent out here in relatively short time. So that was super helpful. And it's because the issue that I had with staying in Chicago was like you said earlier, was just that the voiceover opportunities are much more limited there.
Yeah.
Certainly it's mostly commercial stuff out there, industrial.
Lots of that.
Things like that, but not really so much animation or a whole lot of video games and such.
No, yeah, all that's in Burbank.
All of it's in Burbank, and that's where I'm currently holed up, and I'm about 10 minutes away from most of the studios that I work at. So
perfect.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Amazing.
So
yeah.
Oh yeah. So it's definitely been an adjustment though. It's been strange. I miss some seasons.
Seasons are nice. Yeah, I like them.
Yeah, but honestly, it's been good.
Although here in Chicago, it's like winter 90% of the time, and you get some seasons. Otherwise,
I miss the almost constant coat weather.
Yeah, I mean, I would prefer jacket weather all the time. 65 to 75 is my favorite heat range. And I don't know where that is. Maybe London in years past before global warming was a really big problem. Um, have you met any interesting, cool, like people that you maybe looked up to before or whatever during your time, or have you? Because I know voice acting, you a lot of the time are alone in the booth, or you've got like just the director. I'm assuming at least, and you do your character portion, and you maybe don't meet the other people. But have you met anybody cool?
Well, one of the things that I curse to this day, just because they couldn't tell me about it, was that I missed meeting Mark Hamill, who was in the second and third season of the first Transformers show, the Prime Wars trilogy, as Megatronus when I played Megatron. And so he played that character. But I did hear a funny story from one of the showrunners. He mentioned that for the Megatronus character, who's essentially like a sort of deity for Decepticons, we needed a placeholder voice because he hadn't been cast yet. So I just did it myself, doing sort of a Tony J thing, like this really deep, sinister, or whatever. So I did that, and apparently when Mark Hamill was given that as a reference, he just said, "What do you need me for? This is great." Because oh my gosh, Mark Hamill said that sounded good.
That's amazing.
He's a big hero for me. So that was a missed meeting, but then otherwise, mostly it's just like either working with folks. Like I've been directed by Tony Oliver a bunch, who's a delight. I've gotten to work with some great folks on a show that has yet to be released that I can't really
that you can't say anything about. Yep. Standard.
But we all got to record together in the room.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah, it was ensemble recording, and it was great, and everyone in that show is fantastic and hysterical, and it was wonderful time. So that was an incredible experience. And on auditions, sometimes you meet people, like I met Crispin Freeman and Fred Tatasciore and things like that on an audition at one point.
Yeah.
So that was cool. Just everybody's just really chill. It seems to me that you don't really stay very long in this business if you're a dick.
Yeah.
So,
well,
gosh,
if only that were the case for other industries.
Indeed. Yeah. Cause it's really nice that like most people are super friendly, super chill, and really funny. Like everybody's really funny. And you go into a session and you'll usually just laugh your ass off for at least 30% of the time, if not more.
That's the best. Yeah. Cause I mean,
great.
In film sets, obviously I've worked on those, and you want to keep moving, but if you can work with people that actually, like, you have this constant air of these people are actually good, nice, wonderful people that I'm around, it makes everything so much better.
Oh, sure. No doubt. Yeah. So I love what I do, and I love the people I get to meet along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the final question of this interview, I always ask, what sort of stories are really speaking to you lately, or really like things that you've been really enjoying across any medium, but like stories, movies, film, podcasts, whatever?
I was thinking about that, and my thought initially went to books, and I was like, man, I haven't really read a book in what feels like a long time, only because I'm so caught up with the news and things, because real life is terrifying. So there's that, but also I did just recently, my fiance Samantha had gotten this book it's the Muppets, but it's the Phantom of the Opera.
Oh my God.
If the Muppets did it, and it is hysterical. And there is no good reason why they haven't done this yet as a film. Like Uncle Deadly is the Phantom, and Miss Piggy is Christine Daae, and it's really clever and really funny. It sounds really stupid, but it's really funny. And it's kind of anachronistic in a lot of the stuff it does, because it's the Muppets, and anytime they do a historical thing, it's always anachronistic.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's really funny, so I'm kind of enjoying that. Also, I'm sure other guests have probably mentioned it. I immensely enjoyed The Mandalorian.
Yes, Tim mentioned it, obviously, when he was on.
Of course he did.
And showed off his whole suit last week.
Oh, of course. Yeah, The Mandalorian is, I think, it's the kind of Star Wars I've been waiting for, because I always feel like we need to get away from the Skywalker Jedi stuff, because as much as I'm fine with that and I enjoy Jedi Sith confrontations and everything, it's such a wide universe. Why not explore more of it?
Other
why
facets.
Why not show the regular schmo doing their bounty hunting gig, which seems like such a widespread business in the Star Wars universe.
There's a lot of bounty hunting. Yeah,
there's a lot of bounty hunting. Like, oh man, how do you get anything done when like 20 other people don't just swarm your quarry? So there's that I it's funny. I didn't think that I would like baby Yoda, because I wanted the Mandalorian, I wanted the Mando to be like a really dark kind of like hardcore character, and I didn't want him to have this. I'm going to throw my phone. And I didn't want him to have like a soft spot for anything or do this whole lone samurai with baby thing. But as I watched it and it went on, I'm like, it's a really interesting twist idea.
I think it was, it's an extreme. It was a clever writing. It was a very, very clever writing to make that work. Because I would agree. Yeah, I mean, it was. We went into it going, the Mandalorian. He's got to be stoic and hardcore. But he isn't not stoic and hardcore. But it is Star Wars, so you've also got to inject that humor into it. Like the original movies, obviously they have these bouts of just funny, and then they go into really dark, and that balance is what makes a good Star Wars thing. And I think Mando did really well. I need to catch up because I haven't actually seen all of it yet. Because I know.
Also, I'm just delighted by anything that casts Werner Herzog, because he is such.
I would like to see the baby.
I would like to see the baby. Like, he's an interesting enough like director and everything, but as a character and an actor, he's so just interesting. Like, he's so just ominous in anything he says. He could be like, "Good morning, how are you today?" And like
everybody's like,
"Good morning, sir. Hi." Thank you very much. Like, it's a spooky. But he's such an interesting guy that I'm glad they put him in a movie. And also, of course, What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh, it's so good. It's so fun.
Another thing that I'm neck deep in and always watching when it comes on, when the new episode comes on, because it is. I was initially a little disappointed by that, just because I felt that the characters were pretty much the film characters, in that they're like just kind of old, dotty vampires who don't really understand anything, and they live in a house full of garbage and whatever, so it felt a little too derivative of itself. But then as it went on and the characters are developing more and they got a chance to flesh things out a little more, like, I love it. I love all the characters.
They're all so good. I think the episode where I'm not going to spoil specifically, but the episode where what's his name? The guy who speaks like this. What's that voice actor's name?
Matt Berry.
Matt Berry. Yeah, Matt Berry's character has to run away. So good.
That's my favorite episode.
It's one of the best episodes of any television I've ever seen. Jackie Daytona. Yes.
Such a good episode.
Matt Berry's voice is the weirdest sort of thing.
It's so interesting. I keep meaning to watch his show where he plays the Victorian cop. What is it?
Toast of London? Or
no, it's called something. It might just be called Rabbit. It's something. His character's name is like Inspector Rabbit or something, and he's just a Victorian London mutton chop wearing guy.
Oh my god!
It looks really good. I watched an interview with him that had several clips from it, and it looks genuinely funny.
I also appreciate him because, like, IT Crowd, Graham Linehan. Let's not talk about him, but Matt Berry was interviewed afterwards about like, where do you think your character would be now? And he's like, I hope he's dead. And I was like, I like you, Matt Berry. You do play a scumbag, and he should be dead.
Oh yeah. Yep. Thought he was on that.
Yeah. Father. Just that ridiculous voice.
Mm-hmm. I do.
Unhand me, priest. It's so good. We are going to take a very slight break, about a minute or maybe two, and when we come back, we will be playing the game, which is why I keep holding these cards in my hand. And Jason and I will create a story together, and it will be good. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back. And welcome back, everyone, to Storyboard. So, for the second part of the show, as mentioned at the beginning, we will be playing a storytelling game that I created for the show called Storyboard. If you're interested afterwards, you can actually pick up the game. It is free on itch. The link is in the description. And yeah. So, my brain stopped working. For this game, you use a single suit from a deck of cards, so 13 cards total, and we consult a series of tables which guide us through the creation of this story. We'll start by drawing a card each to determine 2 characters who will be central to the story. Next, we'll draw a card for an important location, and then one for an important object. We'll then take 3 turns each, drawing a card and consulting the events table, which will tell us a thing that happens at some point in the story and ask us questions as to how the characters are involved. At the end, we'll draw a random card from the final 3 cards that we have, the Climax Card, which will throw some more chaos into the mix. So, Jason, are you ready?
I hope so.
So since you are the guest, you do get to choose the genre from the 4 that I have currently written. I am in the midst of writing more genres for it, but we currently have 4. We have teen/high school drama with some supernatural shit thrown in. We have horror, we have sci-fi, and we have fantasy.
Well, let's do sci-fi.
Cool. That's a popular one for this game.
If you'd rather we change it, we can change it up.
Nope.
We want to...
I'm perfectly fine with creating as many sci-fi stories as possible. Because they've all turned out really well too, and I haven't done horror yet, but I think sci-fi is good for us. We can create a fun one. So let me start up some background music for sci-fi and switch over to this. So for viewers at home or wherever you are viewing, upper left shows all the characters and locations and events. I'll be writing it all down as we go. Upper right, obviously, is Jason. Lower right is me. And to the left here, bottom left, is where I'll be placing the cards, so you can make sure I'm not cheating in this game where you can't cheat. So, first things first, I gotta shuffle these cards up. They are shuffled AF. So science fiction. First thing, let's draw your character. It is a 10 of spades. Now, by the way, as an aside, your character, it's sort of your character, but you can use any character in whatever scene you're doing, because what matters is we create the story. So 10 of spades, the religious leader is yours.
Okay. What do I do now?
You come up with a name and that sort of thing. So I'm writing down the religious leader here on our stream thing. And what sort of person is this religious leader, and what's their name? Names are really good to start with.
His name is Rothmar.
Rothmar.
Yes.
Rothmar?
Correct.
Sure. Rothmar. And I'll draw my character now too, and then we'll figure out sort of a way that they are somewhat connected. So Queen, the alien who doesn't understand humans. Interesting.
The alien who doesn't understand humans.
And their name is Bicano.
Bicano?
Yes, Bicano. We've got Bicano, this strange alien. I'm imagining them with, these eyes on stalks, but also eyes on the face. It's very Star Trek. And these like weird large ears, of blue skin, and very like tall and lithe, like very thin features. And I think the alien has arrived on some planet where Rothmar is. That sound reasonable?
Sounds reasonable to me.
What type of religion are they doing? I think when I wrote it, the religious leader idea was supposed to be like like Deep Space Nine style sci-fi religions, but it can be anything, obviously.
Gazpachoism, the belief that any other food is inferior.
That's awesome. Good. Rothmar is the leader of Gazpachoism. I don't think I spelled that correctly, but that's all right.
I don't know how to spell gazpacho either. We'll assume that.
I have wanted to make it for. Well, anyway. So next we have to do a location that's going to be important to the story in some way, which is an 8 of spades. That's a basic one. So it is a space station.
Space station.
Yes.
Do we have to name the space station and elaborate like you did with the Queen? Is that something that I was not doing with Rothmar? Or is this...
You can. I find it's really helpful to elaborate, just as then we can get like our grounding very well, our foundational elements of the story. Okay. So we can work together on the space station. Like, what are we calling our space station? Do you have any ideas?
We can call it we can call it the oh hell, what's the word I'm looking for? Like I'm thinking like a company name that produced it, and so it's sort of named after it. It's like Manticore Industries Shuttle 7, and it's surrounding the planet Vortrix 8. Something, I don't know. I'm
writing it down. This is an improv game.
Good.
Manticore Industries Shuttle 7 surrounding the planet. What was it?
Vortrix 8.
Vortrix 8. Perfect. And now we have to do an object. So the object that is going to show up some point in the story is 3, and it's a dossier, which is.
Dang.
I think somebody has a past which they may want to forget. Probably Rothmar.
Dossier full of food that is actually better than gazpacho.
Exactly. It's the blasphemous. These foods are actually better, and Rothmar has it somewhere.
Yeah, but he can't bring himself to destroy it like his religion dictates, because he really wants to try some of the recipes.
They survive on Vortrix 8 or on this space station. It is all gazpachoism, and they survive on gazpacho. You can't get other food.
No, you can't. Because why would you? It's the godly food. Why would you want anything but the nectar of the gods?
So, next part of the game involves us drawing the cards and putting these events in and answering the questions and sort of describing the scene. If you want to role play at any point, like minor dialogue interactions or something, feel free. Otherwise, you can just be describing the scene. This is more of a storytelling game than a role-playing game. Also, if you don't like what you draw, you can have one mulligan as a guest on the show, so you can redraw after we shuffle the cards.
Okay.
Would you like to go first, or would you like me to?
I would like you to go first.
Okay, I will go first. So let's bring up these events thing here. 9. You are both forced to play a deadly game. Who is forcing you, and what's the game? Now, the deadly game that we're forced to play is, I think there's a lot of dissent as far as gazpachoism goes, and the fact that it is the main religion on the Manticore Industries Shuttle 7 of dissent. Yeah, I'm going to complain about wanting an assistant every time I do this show, because every time I'm explaining the thing, I have to type things down at the same time. But there's dissent on Shuttle 7 about gazpachoism. And there is like a rival faction leader, I'd say. And their name is Maroth. The rival faction leader, Maroth, is very anti the constant gazpacho. He forces Bicano has arrived on the ship, and as soon as Bicano gets there, he like goes and sort of says hi to Rothmar. I think Rothmar also has like quite a bit of power on the ship. I'm going to say religious leader is also the leader of the ship, if that's cool.
I think so.
And so Bacano, who doesn't understand humans, but like basically is pointed in the direction of Rothmar, goes to do that. And as Bacano is there, they hear over the loudspeakers that that Marroth has poisoned some of the gazpacho.
No.
So that's the deadly game. The deadly game is that some of the soup is
I didn't have enough for all of it, so I only poisoned some.
Yes,
and it's distributed in small canisters individually, so you don't know how much of the poison has gotten into which thermos.
Exactly. The thermoses you pick up from the place.
From the mess hall or whatever.
It's Rothmar, the leader
great.
of the shuttle.
Not
At that moment, Marroth goes over the loudspeaker and says that some of the canisters of gazpacho are poisoned. Exclamation mark.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay. So that's a great start. There's definitely drama happening now. So now it's your go.
Okay, so now...
Ooh, that's interesting. 2 galactic empires are at war. How do your characters fit into this war? That could be interesting.
That could be interesting. Well, I think given that they are a religious faction, they're trying to keep away from... Like, look, their religion doesn't even really involve anything after death other than gazpacho. So
you join the great gazpacho in this game.
Yeah, you become part of the great cosmic soup that is everything. And isn't that what we all want anyway? But yeah, I think that this station was sent on a long exploratory mission, but I think Rothmar, or whatever the fuck I called him.
Rothmar, yeah.
Okay. Okay. I think that he specifically sort of nudged enough people to let them go on this exploratory mission just so that he could have this ship that he controlled with his fanatical gazpacho loving far away from the war in order to keep out of it. And he's been trying to keep out of the war, but who knows, it might be encroaching ever closer.
Right, to stay out of it. Okay, so in gazpachoism, when you die, you became part of the great cosmic soup. I just added that because it's hilarious.
Good.
The station was sent on a long exploratory mission, and Rothmar had nudged people to allow him this ship, like control of it.
It's like, how do we go explore this Vortrix 8 place? Because I hear that may have useful stuff. And people are like, no, it doesn't. And he's like, well, can you just let me take a crew and go there anyway?
Yeah, and he's really doing this to just be able to peacefully eat his gazpacho far away from this intergalactic war that is happening off screen and looming constantly.
There it is.
Sweet. So my go. 2. Someone is caught red-handed doing something nefarious. Who was it? What were they doing? And were they caught by one or both of your characters?
Did Moroth not realize that the mic was on when they admitted that they poisoned the gazpacho?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, 100%. So literally Marroth was like, this'll get them. I'll poison some of this so that it kills them. So
no, here's like, sir, I think that. Oh, and that's the end of the transmission.
He did not realize he was talking over the PA system and was saying,
and was being nefarious.
This'll get them. I'll poison some of the gazpachos with the limited amount of poison I have.
Yeah, so it'll only be some of the gazpacho, but.
And someone said, "Sir, do you realize, sir, you're transmitting?" And we hear, "Oh fuck!"
Oh, bogus!
And it turns off. So I'm adding that to the previous event when we heard that. So that is that. So it's caught by both of our characters, Bacano, and Rothmar heard this happen and sort of just look at each other, and Bacano goes, "Is this some sort of strange custom from humans?"
Poison each other? Yeah.
And Rothmar's like, "Yep, sometimes happens." Perfect.
So I tried to leave this war shit.
All right, here we go. I don't know what the plot of this is, except the poison.
It's very kind of Python-esque, where it's like in a grand surrounding. It's kind of like Life of Brian or something. It has this grand, wonderful like placement in time, but not really a lot happens to the main character.
Exactly. All right, so yours is 7 of spades, or 7. So you were
by an alien who speaks a prophecy about both your characters. What's the prophecy?
Yeah.
I think the character who visits is maybe it's an emissary for one of the warring factions.
Yeah.
And then and it's sort of like, hey, we're gonna try and actually land on the like how this alien's like, hey man,
hey boy, hey bro.
Hey dude, so like I was hoping that, I could Fortrix 8 is actually pretty rich in uranium, which is something that we use to power our ships, right? Because we can't do that on Gazpacho. So, that doesn't really run anything or fuel anything. Says you, said Rothmar. And it fuels the souls of the living. But then this emissary looks at the Gazpacho symbolism everywhere as it is prevalent throughout the station. And he says, you must be the one. And Rothmar's, whatever the fuck his name is like, huh? Of course I'm the one. I'm the Gazpacho king, or whatever.
Okay.
Or whatever.
Or whatever he says. Yeah. I love the really casual dialogue in this story.
It's very casual, yeah.
It's good, yeah, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you worship Gazpacho and think you're going to the holy soup at the end, I mean, you're probably a pretty casual person who just loves good cooking.
Probably. So what's this prophecy say? So he's the one.
Yeah, he is the one who is going to finally bring peace to the entire galaxy.
Nice, of course. That's good. It's classic.
Yeah. Well, yes.
So somehow Gazpachoism and Rothmar will end this war as it is looming and getting closer. And meanwhile, this emissary, hey dude, hey man, just gotta there's like uranium down there. And we gotta, oh my God, it's you. And then gives this whole thing. So awesome.
That's where we're at.
Cool. So we only have 2 more rounds, but then the climax card, and we can tie up any loose ends. We also do have to use this dossier of all the food that is better than gazpacho at some point.
Dude. I think that is what he uses in order to stop this war.
Gotta be, yeah. Gotta be.
That's the crux.
Okay, so I'm gonna draw another one here. Jack. There is unrest in your community caused by a religious or political figure. How are you involved in one? Is one of you the figure?
Well, funny you ask.
So the unrest happens because it gets out. It gets out that Rothmar has been called the One, and Maroth is getting some of a following as this like anti-Gazpachoism, and Maroth finds the dossier, right? So that's where the unrest comes from. Like, you're a fraud. I found this list that says that steak is good. And Rothmar is like brought out in the middle of the station, and like that's where the unrest comes from. Let me just write that down before moving on. So Maroth is gaining a following of anti-Gazpacho people and is able to find the dossier of good food and put Rothmar on blast. Oh, by the way, meanwhile, some people have died of poison.
Yeah, some people have collapsed.
Meanwhile, the poisoned...
It ended up being about 4 people.
Joe has killed roughly 4
There's
people.
about 10,000 people manning this station, so ultimately it was pretty weak sauce.
It's weak sauce. I'm going to say, meanwhile, the poisoned gazpacho has killed roughly 4.5 people.
And a half.
Yeah.
He got a little sick, but he's fine.
Maroth Maroth uses this to sow more dissent. But the war arrives like right then. Arrives outside the station as this is happening. So it's no longer looming. It has appeared and is really causing problems now.
There now. Perfect.
What else did that question say? Oh, just unrest is happening. Cool. So currently there is that unrest, and we have to figure out how the foods that are not gazpacho, or how Rothmar ends this war. As there's like ships and things blasting outside, we see some yakety sacks as people move through the station. And four people fall over, as well as one half of a person, and as carrying their canteens of gazpacho. Yeah. Everyone to their battle stations! Arm the gazpacho cannons!
Big swig! Get ready, boys!
All things on this ship are powered by gazpacho. No,
that's why he was offended at the other alien dude who's like,
we need uranium. Why? Just use gazpacho. All right, so that's happening.
I've been in this stationary building for a while. Actually work.
All right, next, your last one is Ace. The ship systems are going down one by one. Who is causing it and why?
Oh, dear.
Oh,
they did
no.
actually power it with gazpacho to get it to move. They didn't realize that it doesn't actually work to power the ship. The ship used all of its power to get there on this little mission and has just been floating in orbit the whole time, since it's just a station that they're all just hanging out on. But now that they try to refuel the cells with gazpacho, it just clogs up everything. It's coming out of the buttons. It's coming out of the everything. It's just oozing through the ship. No wonder the alien doesn't understand humans. I wouldn't either. This is weird. Humans love their weird soup.
Yes, this is, I mean, it's pretty good, but it's sort of weird.
This is tasty, but man,
so the ship used all its power, its actual power,
it's real
to
power
get to Vortex 8. Even though, and the gazpachoism says that gazpacho powers the ship. Like, it's just become a belief.
Yeah. Because they just haven't had to refuel it before, because they assumed that while they were in orbit that it was the thing powering all the systems and stuff.
Right.
Then, upon needing it to get away from the army, they actually try to refill it with gazpacho.
So they and it starts destroying the ship and oozing through all the ship's systems.
It's everywhere.
Please stop auto-saving document. I have to write more. God. The systems. So that is happening while the war is happening outside, and then Rothmar looks over to Maroth and says, as the gazpacho oozes and the whole place begins to smell like sort of slightly hot tomato soup, or like spicy tomato soup. He looks over and says, "I thought I'd never do this, but give me the dossier," and starts flipping through it to figure out what could refuel the ship. That isn't uranium and isn't gazpacho.
That is ideally neither of these things.
All right, so now it is the climax card. So we work together when we draw this card. We work together on how it fits in, and then we tie up sort of loose ends and figure out what the ending of this story is. All right. So I'm going to shuffle it again for no reason at all. 6. The authorities arrive for some reason.
So this then.
Yep. Now literally the cast of Monty Python arrives. Yeah. So the authorities are like members of both of the warring factions, because they begin to smell, even in space. It doesn't make sense, but this is such powerful gazpacho.
It is.
That it can be
on it, so it has to be some potent stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So it's so potent that it wafts through the air, and like a cartoon character smelling a pie placed in a windowsill, the leaders of both of these factions are brought over to Shuttle 7. So the leaders
very kind of tell that to Kanja Club, like across the ones on one side, ones on the other side of the hall.
Yeah, exactly.
They're in the center.
Exactly. Tell that to Kanja Club. Smell the gazpacho through space and come over to the space station. Rothmar and Maroth are in the center,
realizing that we must now
along with
solve this problem. Oh no, the authorities.
With Bacano as they arrive.
Or Bacano, understanding humans less and less.
Yeah, Bacano is just consistently confused. But what I will say is, in this sort of final scene, Bacano says, I may not understand humans very well, but it seems to me that if you feed them this wonderful food, you might be able to bring both factions together. So as like Rothmar had been going to. That's a weird tense that I just used. Had been going to.
Had been going to.
But Rothmar had been going to say no to gazpachoism. Like he was about to renounce his own thing to find something. But as Bacano, who doesn't understand people that much, but does understand Rothmar's love of gazpacho, he is looking through this book, this dossier about all these different foods, and says, what am I doing? And throws it to the ground and points to Maroth and says, we may have had our differences, but we can end this here. You know how good our gazpacho is. And Maroth is forced to say resignedly, it is pretty good. And go get some non-poisoned canteens of gazpacho and bring them in here this instant. And Maroth runs off along with some of the other people on the ship. And they bring back canteens after canteen and invite the leaders of these two factions to sit down over a bowl of gazpacho, and they strike a bargain, a peace treaty, and it ends the war thanks to Rothmar's wonderful religion and sticking with it.
And delicious gazpacho and belief in yourself. These are what binds the universe together.
Okay, so let me write that down. Rothmar, who was about to renounce his religion, throws the dossier and decides, no. Maroth, you know that we can work together to solve this problem. Go get some gazpacho for our guests. And over a meal of this wonderful soup, the two faction leaders work out a peace treaty, thanks to Rothmar sticking with his guns and his soup.
All the gazpacho.
Yes. I've got so Bacano says, why don't y'all work together with the soup? And then Rothmar does the things. So that's our story. I'm gonna now read it from beginning to end.
Of course.
So we have character 1, who is the religious leader, as we drew, who is named Rothmar, Rothmar. We have character 2, the alien who doesn't understand humans, Bacano. Rothmar is the leader of gazpachoism, which is a religion that says that gazpacho is the best and only food and should be. It's the only thing they eat, and they love it. The location of this story is on a space station, the Manticore Industries Shuttle 7, surrounding or orbiting the planet of Vortrex 8. And an object that was supposed to be important to the story is a dossier of all the food that's actually better than gazpacho. So our story opens with Bacano, who has arrived on this space station and headed off to meet Rothmar, the head of the space station. He's a little worried that he doesn't understand humans very well, but he is pointed in the right direction. As he's meeting with Rothmar, the rival faction leader, Maroth, who is very anti the constant gazpacho, comes over the PA system saying, "This'll get 'em. I'll poison some of the gazpachos with the limited amount of poison that I have." And someone on the PA system says, "Sir, I think you're transmitting," and we hear, "Oh, fuck," and then it's turned off. So we know that there's poison. An important fact about gazpachoism is when you die, you become the part of the great cosmic soup, which is a phrase I'll never get tired of saying.
I'm pretty pleased with that myself.
Yeah. So this station was sent on a long sort of exploratory mission because Rothmar had nudged people to allow him control of the ship for gazpachoism and to explore, but it was really to stay out of this massive intergalactic war that's happening on the horizon, the space horizon. An emissary from one of the warring factions comes by and says, hey, like, dude, we need to go on Vortex 8 because there's some, like, uranium and it's how we power everything. He also then, in the midst, stares at Rothmar for a bit and goes, you must be the one, and gives this prophecy about who Rothmar is going to bring peace to the galaxy. Maroth is gaining a following of anti-gazpacho people and is able to find the dossier of good food that Rothmar had and put Rothmar on blast. Meanwhile, the poisoned gazpacho has killed roughly 4.5 people. Maroth uses this to sow more dissent, but the war arrives outside the station as this is happening. The ship used all its actual power to get in orbit of Vortex 8, and they want to get away from this fighting. The gazpachoism says that gazpacho powers the ship. It's just this belief they have, because they haven't ever had to refuel. Now that they try and refuel with gazpacho, it starts destroying the ship and oozing through all the systems. But then, the leaders of both factions... as Rothmar checks out this dossier and tries to find a food that could actually power the ship, nearly like giving up on his religion that he loves so much, leaders from both of the factions smell the gazpacho, this powerful gazpacho, through space, and come over to the space station. Rothmar and Maroth are in the center, along with Bacano, as they arrive. Bacano says, why don't you all work together with the soup? Rothmar, who was about to renounce his religion, throws the dossier and decides, no, Maroth, you know that we can work together to solve this problem. Go get some gazpacho for our guests. And over a meal of this wonderful soup, the two faction leaders work out a peace treaty, thanks to Rothmar sticking with his guns and his soup.
Magic.
So
Magic.
We've done... I've only done 4 episodes of this show, but that is certainly the weirdest story that has been created. I think it's perfect.
Know how seriously I take things. So.
Yeah, obviously, yes. I know that very well. Definitely have fond memories of Mystery Science Theatering things with his own. So that was an amazing gazpacho story.
Fantastic. That was really fun. That was really, really great. I like this.
Yeah, isn't it? It's like quick. It's quick. You just sort of come up with random bullshit and put it all together, and then you have a story by the end of it. And it's like, we played for like half an hour.
That was excellent.
Yeah. So, as I said before, if any of the people watching want to go grab the game, because it is pretty fun, just 2 people requires, and head over to itch. The link is in the description. But Jason, thank you so much for having you on. We should actually talk outside of work stuff at some point in the near future as well. But it was wonderful having you on. Do you have anything you want to say?
Well, first, it's been my pleasure being on because this was fun and it was good to catch up. And this is a really nice, chill, well-organized show. This was really, really fun. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Any time. And I'm glad you enjoyed it and that the show seems to be going well. But I will be hanging up the Zoom call here and letting you go. But thank you so much for being on, and I'll talk to you later, mate.
Absolutely. You take care.
You take care as well. Bye-bye. So, thank you all for watching this episode of Storyboard. Next week, we may or may not be on because I don't think I have a guest yet, but if I do, I'll be posting that on Facebook. If you want links to all my stuff, Welcome to the Bone Era, Even Death May Die, things like that, you can look in the description where all my stuff is that I do under Hellas Hand Productions. This show is produced by Hellas Hand Productions, copyright 2020. The intro animation was created by Jeremiah Erickson. The music for the intro was created by myself, or composed by myself, and the all the music that's been in the background for this story part of Storyboard was created by Tabletop Audio. TabletopAudio.com is an excellent place to find music for your tabletop games. Definitely check him out. I use him for D&D as well as this, and he's really great and prolific. But thank you all so much for joining me on this episode of Storyboard. If you are interested in being a part of it, artists big and small, email hellishandproductions@gmail.com, and I will see if we can get you on the schedule and send you more information. But that is our show for today. Thank you so much for joining me.